ain't nobody throwing out plus ones anymore. The economy
You know
is
what?
not
I
conducive
have
to
to
plus
tell you,
ones.
this is the most interesting wedding invite I've ever gotten. I was at a friend's wedding celebration over the weekend. She got married in Italy in like a small, they got it kind of like a modified elopement, if you will. And so back here in Massachusetts, she held like a little party at her house. They did like a clam bake. It was so fun. Anyway, I met someone there. He's a meteorologist here in Boston. I like know him through people, and I have seen him all over social media. And I'm like, I feel like I know you. He just got engaged and the photos are beautiful. He is gay, by the way. And he and his fiance are getting married at a church, like on the coast. And I met him one time at this wedding. And he was like, by the way, I want you to come to my wedding. I want everyone to come to my wedding. You guys should be there. I'm like telling everyone, please come to my wedding. And I was like, that is the craziest energy to me, to just invite people you just met. Granted,
That gives me secondhand anxiety.
We're
That's lovely.
vibing, but I'm like, how many people are going to be at his wedding? I will be there. I'm telling you right
now
now,
you're
I will
curious.
be there.
Because
now I'm A,
if
curious,
he's inviting
and B, I love him. I love him. And I'm like, what? This wedding's going to be a party.
And you probably love him a little bit more because he just like opened his kimono and was like, hey, biggest day of my life, you in, girl.
Come.
Like that is going to, you're either in or you're out then. And if you're deciding you're in, like, hey,
so you'd have a plus one to that wedding.
Ooh,
so you'd have a plus one.
Oh, amazing.
Or you could be my plus one. Maybe Logan won't want to go and then I can take you.
To jump straight into it, actually, we were going to start with Lindsey Graham, but Sam, I really need you to explain the explosive diarrhea to me.
That was such a transition. Oh my God. Oh, two things back to back in a podcast: the death of Lindsey Graham and the explosive diarrhea outbreak. Oh my God. Okay.
And this is why nobody pitched this.
This is why nobody pitched this. This would be like, could you imagine we're like going from like an A block story to a C block health story? Oh my God. Like A block team continuing coverage, every angle Lindsey Graham has died. And then the C block, let's talk about sure. Why not? Let's start there. Okay. So you may have seen on your social media that people are talking about the explosive diarrhea bug parasite that is causing people to have a week plus of like, as we said, explosive diarrhea parasite that comes around like every year. It's a foodborne illness.
For the record,
like,
poop is always funny, but at the same time,
funny.
Explosive diarrhea sounds like hell.
This poop is not funny. This poop is not funny. Especially like in the warmer months. You see a lot more of this.
This happens every year?
Well, it happens this is like a year-round thing that happens, but you just see like an uptick of like this specific type of case, like in a warmer month. Because think about it, like that parasite is going to grow and multiply in like warm water, on produce that's not been refrigerated, like if it's not been washed well. Yeah. So it is bigger than ever this year though. So the CDC since May 1st has, let's see, over 7,000 possible total cases, which is 27 times higher than last year's total at this time. So like this is a parasite they track, but I know 34 states are reporting it. Michigan is the epicenter of the whole thing.
Like this sounds bad, but is this like
I know what you're going to say.
Bad because it's the perfect news story? I mean, it's a perfect news story in the awful way that it's catchy, like pun intended. It is interesting. It elicits an emotion. Like it does all of the things. There's a sense of urgency. It applies to everybody. Or is this something that like 5 people have gotten explosive diarrhea from?
I think it's more widespread than ever before, and that's why it's a news story. So like this is something that happens every single year. You see cases of this all the time, but the fact that there is a epicenter where they've seen a really big uptick of cases specifically by bodies of water and they don't know where it's coming from, that's why it's a big news story. So nobody's died, by the way. Like this is not, we're not talking COVID. We're not talking like, what was that cruise ship virus, the hantavirus, where people were freaking out about that. And they were like, is this the next? No, we're not talking about the next COVID, but we are talking about something that is a multi-state, it's crossing state lines cluster. So right now they're thinking that there is the latest from health officials. When I say they are thinking, the latest from health officials is that it's likely that it's linked to leafy greens. Again, they have not specifically ironed that out, but they think it's likely lettuce or salad greens, but nothing else can be ruled out. And that's where it's gray and where people are freaking the
And
F
that's the other.
out.
So that's the thing, the ambiguity in a health story, and then journalists feel, rightfully so, a lot of time that you have to like answer the audience's questions, which sometimes there is not a clear answer. And then we get into like, I already saw a few news stories, like things on my feed about like what gay men need to know about this explosive diarrhea thing. And I was like, why you gotta throw us in it?
Why are you picking on the gay men?
But I was like, is this just like a clicky thing? Because like, hey, maybe there's some overlap, but I can't imagine. I'm sure moms are just like, oh my God, don't feed your kid anything green ever again.
Yeah. Well, I think one of the things that was really interesting to me about this storyline in general has been everything started to percolate, obviously beginning of May, but it really started to become a story in the last month, especially as the cases started to go up and they started to see Michigan become the quote unquote epicenter. And then there's a few states that they think it might be connected: Ohio, West Virginia, Kentucky. And there's no specific like supplier or grower. And in times past, when we've seen foodborne illness, like, do you remember when there was that huge outbreak? Was it E. coli and romaine lettuce, specifically from like Arizona? And
yeah,
was it Arizona?
Was that like the Chipotle one?
I can't remember,
because
but
I still don't get
remember
romaine lettuce at Chipotle.
Yeah, right. It's like I get so, and I love romaine lettuce. I was just out with my mom, and I was like, I really want some romaine lettuce, but I'm like afraid to get lettuce right now. I'm afraid. So here's the thing that has struck me about this story in general with moms. My whole feed in the last 3 to 5 days. And to be fair, I was like away from the news for like 3 days over the weekend. I was so busy. You and I were talking. I was like, I can't even get to my computer. I'm chasing a toddler. I'm planning a birthday party. I'm everywhere. But when I would log onto my Instagram and just spend 10 minutes scrolling, every single reel in my feed was like, if you're a mom and you're avoiding berries for your toddler this summer because of this diarrhea outbreak, here are some other fruits to buy, or here are some other things to try. And I'm like, wait. I just put in my Whole Foods order, and I have, granted, I am a crazy person. I buy almost all of my berries organic, and I still soak them like a psycho in vinegar.
I don't think I've ever, like, I will grab the grape from the bag on the way home from the supermarket.
Oh, you're about to have explosive diarrhea. I'm not. No, but I was like, I'm already doing all the things. I already soak it. Like, should I be throwing away these berries? And then I thought to myself, I just took something I saw on social media as fact, because it was a reel in my feed, and I did not go to not even the primary
a very
source.
real concern.
It validated a real concern in my life, which is the phase of life that I'm in. And I did not go to the primary source, AKA the CDC, to find that information. I didn't even go to the secondary source, being the news. I just like took that as fact. And that like just kind of stopped me in my tracks, because that is how fear mongering and conspiracy theories and misinformation spreads. And that was my biggest take. Now, what I have found out since is that, yes, berries could be a culprit, specifically raspberries. They don't know that yet. Leafy greens are likely the more obvious one. It's crazy to me that in this day and age, as a person who spent 10 years in a newsroom, and still I walked away from that thinking that was fact. And to your point about being afraid of romaine lettuce at Chipotle, like that's long gone. As far as we know, that specific outbreak.
Sure it is.
But like that
here's the other thing
for you.
It stayed. And the other thing is like, I'm thinking of all those like headlines. Like, I had to make a New Year's resolution one year to stop sending articles that I hadn't fully read. Like, I had a New Year's resolution. It's like, I can't send this or post this unless I finish reading it. And I know there's some of these apps like that you can't rate and review thing. You can't comment until you read it. Like, you can't share it. But I mean, it's so quick for me to read a headline, read a lead sentence, and be like, I know what this is about, and I think other people should know about this.
Right.
But I've also been on the other end knowing that the headline is such an important. I mean, New York Times has freaking AI chatbots that are A/B testing headlines before they go out. Like, headlines are so important for
Yeah.
getting people to open the article or share it.
Right.
But
And
the
then you come
headline is
across
meant.
the clickbait issue, right? Like what's the clickable content? Like there's this other angle of the story now. Taco Bell has said like it's not going to have some ingredients at its locations, and everybody sees Taco Bell and like
It validates
pulling
it.
ingredients, and it validates the fear. So it was just so interesting to me that not only did I take that as fact, then I got afraid of like going to Sweet Green. I'm like, I don't know how they wash their produce. I don't know. I'm like, am I going to avoid all lettuce until this is over? I mean, granted, I'm pregnant, so there is some difference there, but
But
I
on
don't
the
know.
side of for the kids, like for Teddy, if there's one of the things that I've definitely taken away from this camp experience is that all of the things we're trying to protect so many kids from, they are getting exposed to anyway. Like
Mhm.
a crud head cold went around camp. Kids are coming in with like different like things that they're bringing from home. It's like, oh my God, kids just get sick from random ass
Yes.
shit and you
Mhm.
don't know why. And that's not even talking about the exposure that we try to keep them from in like music and all these things. And then they're listening to every song that we tell them not to 5 years before we even thought that they knew it existed. But that's my thing. It's like stop trying to protect your kids from like the obvious stuff. But again, it's easy for me to say as
Yes.
a single guy.
No, but you're right. Like I can't prevent him from eating blueberries for the next 3 months because it might be a potential culprit. Like I can't prevent that. The best thing I can do is just to continue my psycho policies of rinsing and soaking everything that comes into my house.
And it's okay because you're
And
consistent
that's
with that.
fine. And I am consistent with my psycho behavior. And that is the truth. But it'll be interesting to see how this develops because I feel like the hantavirus story, it was like the cruise ship was a big deal. And then we watched them stay out in the water for God only knows how long. Everybody was like, is this the next COVID? And then everybody got off the ship and they were like, nope. And all was well.
Remember, when I started at CNN, like the missing MH370 flight, which like
Yeah.
was like memed and they were obsessed with, and like there was like planes and props and tools and updates every second. And I was talking to one of the producers there. I was like, "How did you guys like work with that story every day?" I would have gone insane. There were lingering questions and people, and it was unsolved. People love
Mhm.
things if there is still a question mark, there's still room for speculation, there's a black space of information. And so those stories are always going to do well. And then you get the reality, and it's hard for people to go back and be like, write the article about, like, hey, this is how the hantavirus ended up being. No big deal.
No
If it
big
was, I'm
deal.
sure it was awful for some
Right.
people, but
Oh, absolutely.
you
But
don't
like,
go back and write those like
yes.
reaction reflections always. And a lot of people
Right.
aren't good at
It
that.
just kind of, the story just kind of goes away. So we'll see. I don't know if this is going to go away, but to be fair, if you do get this parasite, you do have to go on antibiotics, which is different from like if you get the norovirus and you have to like wait for it to pass. This is like you actually do have to be treated. So it's
Mm.
good to have information, but I think I would just continue to encourage people and myself. It's like just stay off of like the TikTok conspiracy question marks. Like there's just we don't know enough yet, and I don't know. It's just like everything else on social media, especially when it comes to parenting. I have had to take so much parenting content with like a full salt shaker grain of salt. Like it is the wild wild west out there when it comes to parenting advice and thoughts on food on Instagram. So just like trust the source, the primary sources, and even the secondary sources that are reporting it. It's not worth the heartache.
Anytime I see health stories like get this level of big coverage, I do like a skeptical note does go off in my brain, and maybe like that's a COVID like thing
Mhm.
where I don't know. It's just this always those kind of stories I almost don't read. Like the fact I knew none of those facts that you were saying. really, because I just knew, like, I've seen some memes about, like, if I hear the word explosive diarrhea, and I've seen some of, like, my news writer friends literally say, it's like, I don't think I've ever used the word explosive diarrhea this much life.
I said it a lot on the internet today, like quite a lot. That's going to be like my claim to fame on the internet.
Just the overusing the word explosive diarrhea.
The overusing of the word explosive diarrhea. Please, no one make a count of how many times we've said that in this podcast episode.
At least 10. The transition's not smooth, but in other terms of things that have been pissing me off on social media,
yes,
I don't know why, but people having, and you have every right to every opinion, but people, I can never get my head around people wishing ill on somebody who is already dead. That is not something I can actually fathom. Be like, this person was loved by other people. So to go from explosive diarrhea to death, talking about Lindsey Graham, which we mentioned off the top, I was like, I mean, I saw the headline. You texted me immediately. You're like, what?
I was shocked.
Like, dude, saw it 30 seconds ago. And I was shocked. I mean, so for reference, as we are both reporters in South Carolina, for Sam, about 5, 6, 7 years, me 4. Like Lindsey Graham's been a senator for as long as I've had a conscious memory.
And how many years as a representative? 8?
I think, yeah. And then he was in the State House before. An incredible story, like, grew up in the back of a barn, very poor parents. Him and his sister have always been very close. And I know there's conversation about her taking over the seat in the meantime, et cetera, et cetera. There's the 2 things I wanted to talk about here. One, it's like my shock at celebrating somebody's death, even if you agree with them politically. It's almost like, I get how you can come to that. I get how you could see this guy was pushing a policy. I don't like that policy. Therefore, I'm glad there's not this human pushing that policy anymore. But it's so much more complicated to that. And I think it's not to other people. It's like, look, do I wish certain people had taken different votes or whatnot? Like, of course. But at the same time, like, politics is so messy. It's like, and nobody's a great person. And I feel like politics, somebody once said, brings out the most you parts of you. Like, it will make you either, if you have an ego, it will explode it. If you have a desire for power, it will explode it. If you have a desire to help people, it can also explode that.
Yeah.
So that was something I just, like, felt a need to say, because in newsrooms we're always so politically correct about it that, like, we always highly monitor copy, especially recently around deaths, to make sure that it is not going into the area of the, like, larger political conversation about it, which is just like, first of all, like, you need to give 24 hours a person somebody loved is dead. At the same time, with Lindsey Graham, it is hard to underscore how beloved he was by so many reporters. Beloved is a hard word. He was so media accessible.
Yes.
Like, Graham loved press. I mean, the things and that was the other thing I found interesting, which was thinking back to, like, my interactions with him and kind of the stories that were done, remembering when, like, Trump gave out his cell phone number. And then he did this whole, like, this like video of him hitting his cell phone that was, like, hanging from a string and then putting it in a blender. And, like, he had a sense of humor. He always had a flip phone. He would make jokes about the MyPillow guy, be like, oh, I had a bad sleep last night. Like, I had 15 pillows from the MyPillow guy and none of them are good.
Was he, like, notorious for being really funny on the floor?
He was funny. He's just charming. So many of these people are just charming as heck. And good politicians know how to make you feel like the only person in the room, even if it's for 10 seconds, they can nail that. And there are so many people in South Carolina who loved this man and disagreed with him staunchly on 1.5 million things, that I was really surprised to not just see the, like, kind of vitriol, but also see friends who I wouldn't have thought would have cared, been like, hey, this, like, I didn't like whatever, but he signed this letter that I needed, or he was at least, like, he was a responsive human. I don't know. Yeah. Legacies are hard.
I agree. Legacies are hard. And I think when you have, especially a time in American politics that is so deeply partisan, and you have a really tight majority in the Senate. And now this opens up, right, like a big question mark. There's this special primary, and then you have the election. And this is somebody who's been in office for how long in a deeply red state? This has never been a contentious race. Like, this is not something anybody was like, oh, Lindsey Graham's going to lose that. Now you have his sister taking over to finish his term. We have this special primary in like not even a month, right? It's and then all the big names that are coming into that vacuum again, the Nancy Maces of the world. Annie Andrews is back. Like, here we are.
She's been there. I mean, Democrats are thrilled that they had like Annie Andrews. Now we'll pivot to the political part. There's an open Senate seat in South Carolina. There is a longtime Gang of Eight member who will no longer be there. There's also a political vacuum when somebody who's been there that long, like people will talk about the Trump whisperer stuff, et cetera, et cetera. And of course, that's a big deal and why Trump cares so much. But yeah, Democrats always want to put out like face first that they have a chance in South Carolina. We both covered Jamie Harrison versus Lindsey Graham. And that was one of those elections that taught me when you follow a campaign.
It could happen. Right. Yeah, right. And
polling will have a margin of error of like plus minus 5
point gap at the end of the
and then you look at the
20
results.
Point gap, yeah.
And so that was one of those experiences that I had. It's like, okay, like people that are underdogs are really, really gonna try to make their campaign sell well. But having interviewed, Annie Andrews is a doctor, pediatrician from, I think, the Charleston area, who I would interview a lot as a pediatrician. I thought you were gonna say I used
her as my pediatrician. She's actually my pediatrician.
Actually, I am a 31-year-old man. Shout out to Dr. Sperry. Had to reach out to him recently. I was trying to find his number because I had to think about vaccine forms for camp, and I don't know what vaccines I've had and had. When was the last time I had a freaking like tetanus shot?
Pediatrician. I just need to say this out loud.
I didn't actually call. I couldn't get the right number, so I just had to not worry about it.
Okay, so instead of it being fake news, I will say Adam tried to call his pediatrician before he went to camp. To get his vaccine
2 months ago.
That is so good. Oh, that's beautiful. What a Annie Andrews is not his pediatrician.
No, but I would interview her a lot for during COVID times.
Yeah.
And so I'm familiar with her.
She's also very media accessible.
Very media accessible human. I mean, you kind of have to be when you're an underdog like that. You need to take every clip you could get in any piece of exposure. So maybe that'll be interesting. Maybe it won't.
In the primary, you have Nancy Mace, like Ralph Norman, right? Like, what Nancy is happening?
Mace, what you doing, girl?
I know. And then the lieutenant governor. Oh, yes.
So Pam is up.
Pam
Everett.
It's Joe Wilson who ruled himself out.
Yes, because Trump didn't want to, but it's confusing because Alan Wilson, his stepson, is probably also in a lot of conversations.
Oh my God, another name I haven't heard forever.
So Alan Wilson is now the Trump pick for governor. Pam Everett didn't get, I don't think she got an early endorsement, but maybe not a later one. South Carolina reporters, if you listen to this, fact check me. So it's going to be interesting, but I also just wanted to say, like, and ask you about that dichotomy of interviewing people, like that small talk before an interview is about to get heated. It's like you both know you're going to go there. It's like there is a elephant in the room of a big topic, whether it's a statement you just made or the reason you're in the room. Like, it's going to get a little spicy. And that conversation 3 to 4 minutes before, I feel like everybody's always so overly polite. And I think and the thing I appreciate about Graham originally was he kind of showed me, it's like, oh, this is how you do that awkward this like green room talk almost thing in a really less fake way. The way he talked about the My Pillow thing, like he would just give a little bit of like, hey, look, I'm willing to laugh at myself and like my party thing. And therefore, so I think that was one thing I kind of learned that I kept with me.
I feel like that's a tactic by politicians too, to try and get you to be like subconsciously befriend them in a way. And so, But I think what I have always seen from Lindsey Graham, and I have never interviewed him personally. I met him, I'm pretty sure, in the lobby of WIS one time. He came in for some interview. And I have always been struck by his ability to just say exactly whatever he means. He doesn't sugarcoat it, and he'll say it, and you know that's he knows it, and you know that the soundbite is going to live on for days and days and days. He totally knows when to give a bite. And I think they're really good politicians, if you want to call it good. And this is not let's be clear, this is not us saying that we think Lindsey Graham was a great politician. This is not us sharing a partisan view. This is just simply speaking to the way that he approached media. And I think
Correct.
that he did a really good job of saying exactly what he meant, knowing it was going to be a soundbite, specifically around Ukraine and Russia in the past couple of years. Like, he has been so very clear about his stance. And I think what has struck me so much about this story of his death is how many conspiracy theories have popped up online.
Wait, really? I have been really, really good in the past 5 or 6 days of like leaving my phone in my room when I go out and run camp, or leaving it in my backpack. I have a brick, not an enforcement kind of situation, but I brick all social media.
I love the brick.
Like 9 hours a day. So yeah, I've missed that aspect of all of this.
Well, he had just returned from an international trip, and he died that night that he came home. So there's this conspiracy again.
Where was
let me be clear. Unfounded. I think he was in Ukraine.
The conspiracy theory now.
Let me double check that.
Supporter of Ukraine. So do we think the Russians killed Senator Lindsey Graham?
That's the conspiracy theory. Before
I understand how you could reach that with the facts that you're presenting with me right now, especially like sudden. Because that, I mean, yeah.
But yeah, he was in Ukraine. I was right. I have to trust my brain sometimes.
Or that was North Korea, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Classic. He was there, and he had just gotten back, and he's this lead sponsor of this like long-standing Russian sanctions bill. We know he died from like an aortic dissection. That's like the autopsy report. But this is where the conspiracy theorists go crazy. They're like, well, of course they're going to say that it could look like anything.
And I hope people are looking into all aspects, whatever. But I will say on autopsy reports, my confidence in them is so much lower after working in local news, especially after covering the Murdoch case. Like, what people decide to write as cause of death can be subjective. Like, it can be. It's like, look, did I get hit by a car? Yeah, but is that maybe blunt force trauma instead? Or did I get poisoned? Sure, but did it make my heart stop in a different way? Like, I don't want to feed this, but also I understand. But also
that was a pretty quick, like a quick confirmation of like, this is how he died. But I think because there is that like foreign policy tie, there was this huge vacuum online of like, it just allowed the conspiracy theorists to just dive right in, and they could pick apart the autopsy report. They could pick apart the timing of the trip, like the fact that he died in his home within hours of like he spoke like hours before.
I mean, and that could be, even putting that into the conversation could be a move by foreign actors. I mean, when we're talking about people at this level, I don't think that can be written off.
Yeah. But it's like, how deep does the conspiracy go? Is it that it...
We'll take it deeper.
Yeah. We'll take it even deeper.
Don't worry. We will, like, I am sure the internet, Americans as a whole who love conspiracy theories, like, we'll take it.
It's going to deep dive, but may he rest in peace. And, the comedians of Instagram need to calm down with the Graham burning in hell memes. Like, that to me has just been so gross.
Death is sad. People are mourning.
Yes.
I think.
And you can be pleased that like he's no longer going to be implementing like, you can feel however you want to feel about that, and like that's fine. But like, I just don't know when we decided that like the death of someone else, like you said, translates to let's make fun of them on the internet. That to me is just a gross interpretation of that.
Yeah, it's like the Wicked Witch is. It's like, the
Wicked Witch
is dead, and it's like,
that's a good comparison.
Okay, but like, I feel like that's what people are always so ready to say. Yeah, anyway, so scratch that. Needed to get those feelings because nobody at
We
Junior
have
Summer Camp
good
wanted
news
to
though.
rant. Oh my gosh, we have some very personal good news.
And I love that
Um,
you can actually talk about it because like in the context of a news job, you wouldn't be able to report on this. And so I love that like you can report on this here because nobody pitched it except for us, and therefore we can do whatever the hell we want.
my dad was in the New York Times yesterday, and him and my mom have been working on this an amazing research project that I just like will brag on them for now that everything is public. So this started like 7 years ago. So the headline of all of this is, long story short, my parents did a study on how THC and CBD reduce agitation for people in like end of life care. Um, and Alzheimer's. When you're demented, you get very agitated. Things scare you, things freak you out. You yell, you scream, you don't know who people are. Like, and agitation just comes with all of that as well with what's happening in your brain. Right now, there's a lot of drugs that people have been using for agitation, namely like morphines and like very strong medications that people don't always react well to. So we had a family friend's mother, like very close family friend, who my parents kind of brought her into their office every now and then. We're seeing when she was toward the end of life how negatively she was reacting to like the traditional medications. Um, and both my parents are Alzheimer's researchers. They're very passionate about like geriatric care and elder care and end of life care. And so my dad was essentially saying like there has to be a better way than just like loading up people that are about to die with like a million drugs. And they they started researching the impacts of THC. They worked with like this awesome Canadian lab. They went to people's homes. Many, if not most, I believe, were veterans, would administer
Wow.
this, check in on them. Like my mom was calling me from like rural South Carolina, like that, like as she was like making these drives to people's homes in order to administer it. And then the reduction. So I'll give you the results. Which researchers commissioned a Canadian pharmaceutical cannabinoid company to develop the oil, which contained 2 milligrams of THC and 100 milligrams of CBD per milliliter. Half the participants received a placebo oil, et cetera, et cetera. But essentially, because I think the non-placebo group had an 80+% reduction in agitation, that they had to move everybody onto the actual medication. Like it was
How do they administer it?
Depends. Great question. Because a lot of them, like, you're not smoking it. It needs to be very carefully. Like, this is a medicine. And one of the things that my dad talks a lot about as, like, kind of this middle ground between, like, a proponent for using, like, hemp and marijuana to help with geriatric care, but also being, like, the milligrams and the dosages and the strains and the things that you talk about if you, on the street or if you go to a dispensary, it's like that is the Wild West. We don't really know 100% how much THC is in there, how much CBD is in there. Like, so that this administering and getting this oil from this Canadian company to make sure they knew, and also to everything in line with federal laws. So yeah, so I've been watching them do this for 5 or 6 years. So they've called it the Libby study in her honor. Shout out to Libby for also loving tequila.
Love that
Take a
for
shot.
Libby.
Take a shot for Libby.
A shot for Libby.
And it's just a really beautiful thing as a son to like watch. Both my parents work together, which is awesome.
That's
They're
so
research
cool.
partners. And of course, it's not always like perfect and ideal, but it's amazing to see them come together and both be smart. And this is not only like a major step in Alzheimer's care, which is definitely a world where there's not always enough good news. My dad asked me once, he was like, Adam, if this study turns out to be positive, will that be a big news story? And I literally remember telling him at the time, I was like, yes, like the New York Times will call you. And they called, and he did a great interview. They were in London presenting it to everybody. Like, this is going to help so many people with such a hard part of life. Like my dad's belief of dying with dignity is, and my mom's as well, is just incredible. And the way they treated these patients, it's awesome.
That's such an interesting passion to share, like with your life partner, to be so invested in the end of life for someone else's partner. Like that's just such an interesting
I've never thought of it
juxtaposition.
that way.
Yeah, like they're partners in their research, and I assume like your parents have personal relationships, reasons that they went into Alzheimer's research, and it's just I mean, to deal with death and dying and memory loss every single day as a human being is already just like above and beyond what most people are willing to do. But then essentially they take that home with them, right? At the end of the day, because they work together. So I would be so curious to know, and you'll have to ask them this. Maybe you already know the answer, but what caused them, as I'm sure they've been doing this research for a long time, as specifically Alzheimer's researchers to say, I want to know what THC and CBD, what that might do in this space. Like what even brought them to THC and CBD as a potential? I'll be curious to know.
I think I know the answer. I'll fact check myself, but I believe the answer was them just knowing how many, just like anecdotally, how many people were doing it. Were using it for that purpose and just being like, what's the science behind this rather than people just throwing this out as a solution. Which is it's I don't know. It's
and
just
the
like
rise in all medical use of marijuana specifically. And CBD, I feel like, has become so mainstream. Like, I don't think people even bat an eye, but now the use of THC specifically in a medical situation, like, it's just, the whole thing is so interesting. I can't wait to see where this goes. What's the next, is there a next step for them, or are they just, this is it? They're just hopeful that the drug gets used.
Yeah, they did the study, and now I don't know what comes next to that kind of process. I've never really like, this is very strange,
right?
Like, to both my parents.
Like, do memory care facilities just like get the drug? Like, what happens next? I'm just so curious.
I don't know.
I can't wait to read the article. By the way, I haven't read.
Oh yes,
I can't wait to
and
see
it's great. They had like a real impact story to start it off. It's like, as a reporter, I know when a reporter puts care into a story. And I think seeing somebody do that for my parents also was just like one of those. It's like, you looked out for them. Like, you were making sure, like, my dad was saying what he meant to say. You were making sure that, like, double checking your facts. Like, again, it's the New York Times, but also, like, I don't take that for granted.
No, that's incredible. Oh, what a good news story for us to end on this week. That makes me so happy. Congrats to your parents. Send them our congratulations. That's huge. And I can't wait to see what they do next, because I'm sure they're going to have so much more under their belt.
They always have something cooking. It is
I bet
something special. You have the most brilliant time in Nantucket. Send Sam tips for Nantucket to make it a magical and lovely experience.
It's going to be so fun. I'm already planning.
I'm going to go to Chi-Town and
drink some tequila sodas.
It drinks so much tequila.
You're going to drink a lot of tequila soda. I'm going to drink a lot of decaf lattes. That is the vibe.
And with that, have a wonderful week, Sam.
Mwah. Love ya.
Mwah.
See you all soon. Bye.